Behind me is the house here in Yazoo City where the writer Willie Morris grew up. The story is his dog Skip is buried in the yard. Getting to know Willie Morris and interviewing him many times over the years has been one of the great treasures of my life. I'm going to share some of those interviews throughout the program. I'm Gene Edwards. Welcome to Writers, Willie Morris. He wrote the biography of a dog, Skip, and a cat, Spit McGee. He wrote 2 lyrical memoirs, one as a young man and the second 25 years later. In all, he wrote 23 books and mentored many, many writers, but perhaps his largest contribution to American letters was as a journalist. Willie was in his 30s when he became editor-in-chief of Harper's, the youngest editor-in-chief in the history of that august magazine. He transformed it from a stodgy periodical to an open forum for the issues of the turbulent 60s. This small-town Mississippian, this man from Yazoo, became known as the person who really was the legend behind the new natural journalism. Willie Morris also became known as one of America's great intellectual forces. It was 1963 when he became associate editor of Harper's, a prestigious but also a kind of a dry literary journal. By 1967, about the time his first autobiography, North Toward Home, captured the nation, Willie became editor-in-chief.
The whole context of the nation was changing so drastically in the 60s, and I had the most profound hunch that the oldest magazine in the country had to reflect what was happening in the largest society. And the only way to do that was to encourage the best writing of the day from the most daring and honest writers.
He lured Arthur Miller and Bill Moyers and David Halberstam and Arthur Schlesinger Jr. And he gave them the time, the freedom to do really fine writing.
I think the writers were starved for a truly national magazine and for Harper's to return to its sturdier literary traditions, but also hardcore reportage. It didn't take me as long as I thought it would.
First, he enticed the novelist and essayist Bill Styron.
Bill Styron was kind of our Declaration of Independence, and we consciously did it because it was one of the 2 or 3 greatest novelists in the country. And I think it was our first issue when we took over to do a big excerpt from his remarkable novel, The Confessions of Nat Turner. And Styron was very important for us.
And Norman Mailer wrote a major piece.
We titled it On the Steps of the Pentagon, which in book form was called Armies of the Night, about the famous Vietnam demonstration in Washington, D.C. And it's the greatest thing Mailer ever did. He won the Pulitzer in book form and was the longest magazine article ever published. And I think it will still hold the record. It was 90,000 words. And I remember calling my managing editor, Robert Kotlowitz. We were pressing a deadline, and Bob said, what you got, Willie? I said, Bob, we got 90,000 good words. And he said, that's great. Should we run it in 3 or 4 installments? I said, let's run it all at once. And there was a silence on the other end. He said, why not?
On August the 2nd of 1999, Willie had a massive heart attack and he died the very same day. As they say in the South, we sang him home at the cemetery here in Yazoo City. He's buried right over there, just 13 steps from the grave of the Witch of Yazoo, the woman he made famous in Good Old Boy. There were so many things that fascinated Willie Morris. He loved dogs, he loved baseball, he loved a great practical joke, he learned how to love a cat, he loved Joanne, he loved his friends, he loved a great conversation. Maybe most of all, he loved language.